Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. This is the Energy Outlook Live. So we are discussing this week, something very important, and I'll bring my guest up in a bit. Aso Rock has gone or is planning to go on solar, and that has raised many controversies or many conversation on one, the cost of the project, and many more. Okay, I'll bring in my guest so that I can get into the conversation, of course, and hear more from him. Joining me for this conversation is Bayode Akomolafe. He's a power industry professional, and I followed him a lot online, and I said, look, you know what, I need to get him into this program so that we can dissect some of these issues. Bayode, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Wisdom.
Fantastic. I'm sure you must have heard what I shared earlier. We'll start from that point. And I know you shared your thoughts on a very long piece on LinkedIn, and where you try to analyze Aso Rock going on solar. What are your thoughts now? If I want to ask you to really buttress, should we be worried if Aso Rock goes on solar? Because the special advisor to the president on media and publicity has likened that project to what White House in America has, and said, look, it's no big deal if the presidency wants to go on solar. What are your thoughts, Bayode?
Uh, my thought is it's not a bad thing if
Okay.
Aso Rock goes on solar. But one of the things that I think is happening is there is no clarity on the goals of that idea. I still call it an idea. I don't think it has morphed into a project yet. My question to the presidency, the people who are muting this idea, is what is the main goal of going solar? And that is what can provide detailed response. With that, we can provide detailed response to, okay, what is the goal? Because the goal there can be many reasons. But in any way we look at it, I don't think that project, the way it's been projected, the way it's been presented, I don't think it's justified, based on many reasons. And if you want me to speak to that, I'm going to speak to that, because there are many reasons why an entity, the Aso Rock Villa might want to go to solar. Is it because of reliability? Are they having reliability issue with supply of electricity? I don't think so. If there is reliability problem at Aso Rock, we will all hear about it. I'm so sure that there is supply of electricity from the grid to the Aso Rock through Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. And I'm so sure there is a captive power, maybe like a couple of diesel generator or gas power generator that is powering the villa. Between those two supplies, I'm sure that between those two sources of supply, I'm sure that there's no issue of reliability issue or capacity issue with supply of electricity to the villa. So the question now begs, why are we going into this project? Why does the presidency or Aso Rock Villa want to spend $10 billion, as pronounced by the statement, want to spend 10 billion naira, sorry, on a solar project that seems not justified? And
Okay.
I say not justified again because of many reasons. Number one, if we're looking at it from a reliability standpoint, it's not justified because there are other sources that is already supplying the villa with electricity reliably. If we look at it from a position of a socio-psychological standpoint, I don't think it's the right time. There's economic hardship in the country. People are looking up to government to lead the way, through this hardship, through this hard time. But here we are, want to spend 10 billion naira on a project that seems just not at the right time. Again, as I said, it's not a bad idea, but I believe that the way and manner it's been implemented, the timing, the framework of the project doesn't seem is not right.
Okay, Bayo, so if you look at it this way, that
Yeah.
the Aso Rock we understand spends about 47, how much is that? 47 billion naira on the electricity bill. So if we use 10 billion naira to put solar in Aso Rock, we save plus or minus about 30 something billion naira that keeps going to electricity bill. And others have argued again that if Aso Rock goes on solar, it helps to enable even more adoption of solar in the country. Do you look at it this way of a win-win?
So I look at it as a win. I look at it, those are two different things. Number one, you
Okay.
mentioned 47 billion naira. Let me clarify that. That is wrong. That's a wrong assertion. Aso Rock has never spent 47 billion naira annually on
Okay.
electricity bill. There was I believe there was a news article somewhere where someone said Aso Rock spent 47 billion naira annually on electricity bill. That is humongous. That is just not possible. And the unverified data that have been coming out, again, unverified data coming out of probably the distribution company, and the amount of money budget allocated for powering the Aso Rock, again, unverified data, right, shows that it's about 3.5 billion naira annually to power the Aso Rock in the terms of cost of electricity. So it's not 47 billion naira for sure. When the news report that headlined that point, and I know it's credited to someone who I believe misspoke, and I don't want to speak for that person, but if you read that article further down, it shows that all government agencies, all MDAs are owing about 47 billion naira, just to clarify that.
Okay.
But from unverified sources, spend on electricity and cost of diesel and stuff like that, it's about 3 to 3.5 billion naira. So if we take that number and look at a capital project of 10 billion for solar PV, on a facial value, it might make sense because, okay, you're spending 10 billion for a capital project, a solar project that will last you 10 years, right? That's for example. But does that mean that is the only thing that is going to power the White House, the Aso Rock Villa? I don't think so. Again, there is no reliability problem. So why are we doing that? And secondly, why is the Aso Rock planning to build a power plant or a solar PV? When did Aso Rock become an energy developer? Let's look at it from this perspective. So I'm sure, I've never been to the Aso Rock, but I'm sure in Aso Rock they use tons of papers. They print stuffs and stuff.
Yes.
So like, oh, okay, we're spending a lot of money on paper. Let's now start making our own papers. Does that make sense? It does not. So that's my perspective about it. I don't think the project, the idea might be good, but the project, the way it's been presented, the way it's been pushed, I don't think it's not right. And it's not a good time. Again, from a social psychological standpoint, it's not a good
I
time.
wanted to ask you,
Nigerians
buttress
are
on
not happy.
that. You said it's not a good time. Why so?
I mean, the things are hard in the country, right?
Okay.
People are looking up to government that, okay, they should allay social general problems. For example, that 10 billion naira that we're talking about, how many meters can be bought that can be used as part of, I know there are already government programs for metering, but if government spend additional that 10 billion to buy more meters and maybe mandate that any state government that can match anything we give them. For example, I believe from my calculation, they can buy up to like probably 50,000 units of meters, just back of the napkin estimate, right? And say, okay, Ekiti State, and I'm taking Ekiti because I'm from Ekiti, we like to give you 5,000 meters, but you should also come in and supply maybe 2,500 meters to support your state, something like that. That will go a long way. People will see that, okay, this is value, because metering is a problem with with the grid electricity as a whole. So we are solving a problem and not solving a problem that doesn't exist at the beginning, because there's no problem to solve. The only justification for that project that I see, and because I am a little bit biased, is that it's a sustainable form of energy, it's renewable energy. So yes, it can show that we are greening our governance, but is that a priority?
I'm sure that that's what will be in the minds of people who are driving this project for the villa. But let's come down now and talk about other problems. This year we've had a couple of we call it grid collapse. They call it grid disturbance, and we seem not to agree in which one this meaning or what these two things means. Because we, the customer and the consumers, when this disturbance, as they call it, happen, we don't have light, and we hear is the usual grid collapse, which, I mean, this disturbance, we've had about 3 of them this year alone. Help us understand, what is grid disturbance? What is grid collapse? Is there something we are missing here?
I'll go back a little bit. When we talk about there is grid disturbance and there's grid collapse. But ultimately, who suffers? The end customer.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what you call it. Disturbance, grid collapse, cable stolen, whatever. It's the customer. The customer doesn't want, the end users don't want to listen to that. We pay for electricity, we want to get electricity. That's the point. Now, to your question, the way electricity is, and I'm going to go into some little in-depth of
please go
electricity as a concept. The way electricity is not, electricity is not something that it's not like yam that you can, cultivate yam and keep it in your store. Like, okay, people can come and buy, you can sell 10 today, then sell 20 tomorrow. Electricity, as you are producing it, it must be used. If it's not used, it must be stored, and you must have that storage facility to store it, which we still don't have in Nigeria today. So there must always be balance between what is being generated and what is being used at every millisecond, every microsecond. So not even every second, every tiny bit of time. And whenever that generation and demand is not matching, then there will be issues. There will be frequency problems, and that already is a disturbance, because now the grid is not balanced. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about that, grid balance. Whenever the grid is not balanced, then there is a disturbance. And if that disturbance keep going, gets to a certain threshold, the disturbance will keep growing, right? And when it gets to a certain threshold, and the system is feeling that, things are this, there's danger coming, I can't take this anymore. Again, if we go into parameters of, load, frequency, voltage, when the system sees that it cannot go anymore, and that's the way the system is configured. It's a fail-safe system. It's going to cut itself so that it will not damage itself. So the best thing is, let me get myself out of this system, save myself, and that is when the collapse, that's when the disturbances start aggravating. And when the old system cannot take it anymore, the whole system fall apart, and that is when it collapses. For people that work in industrial setting, it's when we talk about safety, it's something like when there is a sort of accident, right? Or maybe an incident, we call it near miss.
Yeah.
It happened, but no one got hurt. But when it happened, when someone got hurt, that's a problem. So that's the same thing between grid disturbance and grid collapse. Grid disturbance is like something happened, but the system was able to adjust itself, or it was able to remove certain parts, but the whole system did not come down, and that is the grid disturbance. But call it what we may, there's problem with the grid. And we might name it, call it disturbance, we might call it collapse. We need to solve the issue with the grid. We saw what happened in Spain and Portugal a couple of days ago, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, a lot of people that probably have seen the videos on social media. When there is lack of electricity in any society, it turns to chaos. And that was what happened. If you see the videos that were coming out of Spain and Portugal, it's chaos. It's just like it seems as if in Nigeria we are used to it and we know how to manage ourselves without electricity, which is quite unfortunate.
So if I may come in here now, for as long as we know, the issue of blackout has been persistent for us as Nigerians. But the bigger question is, how do we break free from it? We know in 2023, President Tinubu signed the Nigeria Electricity Act into law that has given states the power to generate, distribute, and transmit in their different states. I think as at recent, about 12 states have been able to set up their market and take full control. But the issue of blackout continues, which from time to time we have this grid issue, collapse or disturbance, and we seem to struggle on how to solve that. How do we break free? I know you've done a lot of research and worked around this for a while. I don't know if you want to share. What would be the absolute solution to break free?
Uh, the the solution to electricity problem in Nigeria, I mean, the problem of electricity in Nigeria are multidimensional. We know it. We've talked about it. People have been talking about it. The problems have not changed. It's still the same problem, right? Um, we don't have enough generation. Up to now, I think we're now maybe over 500 megawatt in generation, about maybe 120, 125 thousand megawatt hours daily for a population of 200 million, which is pretty low, pretty low. It puts us to, I think, about 160 kilowatt hour per capita annually, which is very low compared to to a global average of about 3,500. The solution to electricity and improvement will be gradual. We
Okay.
need to take that as Nigerians. It cannot be solved in one day. Personally, I believe that the signing of the Electricity Act of 2023 that gives state power, the authority to generate, transmit, and distribute, as you mentioned in the introduction, I think is a good one. However, one thing is to develop a policy. Another thing is to implement that policy from a social perspective and from a technical perspective, right? And I think that's why we have not seen, despite all the 11 states that are, as you mentioned, or 12 states that have kind of signed into law their electricity, I don't call it market because they don't have a market yet, electricity framework. There's no much going on yet because we are building something. The states have to build a foundation, and I'm hoping that they are trying to learn from the national grid so that they will not run into the problems that the national grid is having. And to solve the problem of electricity, number one, I think the first thing has been mentioned. States have the capacity. The central grid is still there. But what about the social issues that still persist. You mentioned about band A system, the banding system, which I think is flawed personally. And this, one of the questions I raised about the banding system is about compliance. And I think that's what the issue is now. The goal, I understand it, is good, but implementing and compliance seems to be a big issue. If you are promising 20 hours of electricity at a certain rate, but you're not meeting that number, that service, why should people pay that same rate? I think that's the question consumers are asking these days. And that is a challenge that the system found itself. And that is why at the beginning, I kind of recommended a sort of incremental rate based on usage. So basically, if you're using very low, yeah, the first maybe 20 kilowatt hour per month, you pay very little. So with that, the people at the bottom of the pyramid, they can, if that's what they can afford, they can use that. If you need more, you pay more. As you go higher in your usage, then you pay more, you pay more. And with that, the service is there, you pay as you use. That's that on the side. We still have the issue of metering. We still have the issue of people not paying. There's issue of losses. Apart from the technical losses, which is okay, it's normal to have technical losses. I think their global average is about 7%. But in Nigeria, if we aggregate all of the losses on the grid, I think it's the last report that I read from Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, I think it's up to maybe 35, 36%, which is high.
Very high.
If there is no investor that will come and invest in a system that knows that 35% of its revenue will not be accounted for. Nobody does that kind of business, right? So the ability to narrow down that losses, it's one key area to solving electricity problem in Nigeria.
Okay. Let me hold you there. A good place to hold on. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, I would like to know what are some of the quick fixes, to this issue. The banding system is flawed, as you said. What happens in Sena climes on the issue of power like Nigeria is? What can we replace the banding system with, or what can we do better with the banding system? But when we come back from this quick break, we'll take the conversation from that point.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlights. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we'll connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
All right, welcome back. This is the Energy Outlook Live. And I've been talking to Bayode Akomolafe, a power industry professional, and we're discussing grid collapses versus grid disturbance, what the difference are, and how do we get away from this issue, and what are some of the underlying problems we need to look at. But we're back now. Bayo, are you still with me? So
Yes, I'm
the next question I want to ask is, are there quick fixes? I mean, I follow your articles a lot, and in one of it, you had mentioned some quick fix to the issue of grid collapse. I don't know if you want to share with us, how do we get out of this at the end of the day, or is going to be an unending problem until 36 states in Nigeria are able to manage their power and have power policies and their own market or platform, as you have said. When will we get away from this issue? I want a situation where in a month, I can't remember when light went off. Will that, my dream, ever come to pass?
I'm a wisdom. I'm an optimist. So I would say yes.
Okay.
I'm hopeful, and I believe that that will come to pass. Again, it's not gonna happen in 1 year. It's not gonna
Of
happen
course.
in 2 years.
Of course.
Uh, but in terms of quick fixes, I think one of the things that is happening, which I think we should explore better as a nation, is the uh, mini grids,
Okay.
captive power, embedded generation into our distribution systems, bring sources of generation closer to the people. And what does that mean? It means that with that, if sources of generation is closer to the people, number one, you may be able to bypass, in some cases, you may be able to bypass the transmission grid. Might be able to, with the embedded generation system, which I know it's an order. There's an order that backs that from a Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. We investors can generate into the distribution network, and which is closer to the people, right? So we limit the risk of the transmission grid. That's
Okay.
number one. That's a good way to kind of boost generation. And I know there are a couple of projects like that that have been happening. There
Like
was one that
existing
was
already in
recently.
Nigeria?
Oh, yes. There was one recently commissioned. I'm not going to name names, but one of the with Ikeja Distribution, there's an organization that tie into
Okay.
Ikeja Distribution Network that provided, I think, I can't remember the capacity, maybe 800 kilowatt
And this is backed
peak.
by NEC policies.
These are all backed by NEC policies, yes.
Okay.
So those are things that we can explore to boost generation and supply. Of
Okay.
course, it's not going to be over a wide area, but I mean, we can pick pockets of places to support that. Another thing is what the federal government is working on in terms of SCADA, which is the supervisory control and data acquisition system. If the government can, I know they're working on it. I know it's an ongoing project. If the government can deploy it as soon as possible, that will help the newly commissioned Nigeria Independent System Operator, NISO, to work more efficiently. And that will help with reducing grid collapses or grid disturbances or grid issue, whatever name we give it. Because now the system operator, in this case NISO, will have better visibility to what is happening on the grid. Because as it is today, system operation is more like blind. And I will say it here, I really commend the folks that are working in that system. I believe they have worked out their own, based on their experience and knowledge, they've worked out their own system of working within the system. But a SCADA system and grid automation system will go a long way, at least for us to be able to enjoy the little we have. Because today, the little we have, we don't even enjoy it. As of today, we all know that generation capacity is up to probably 13, 14 gigawatt, which is still low, but we're only getting 5 out of that 14. That means there's capacity, even with the generation capacity we have today, there's capacity, there's room for more to be transmitted and distributed to Nigerians if the system is working the way it's supposed to. So SCADA system, which is already ongoing, if they can, fast track that, get that going, that would be good. Of course, there's also the issue of social problem, and I think I mentioned that earlier. If we late last year, there was a grid problem that kind of cut off a lot of parts, the northern part of Nigeria, because of a technical issue, right? However, the issue can be remedied if not because of social issue, insecurity, as mentioned. So there's insecurity issue in certain part of Nigeria that's causing problem with electricity.
Yeah.
So the problem with electricity is not just technical, there's social problem with it. So insecurity is one of them.
With the
Theft and
vandalization
vandalism is
happening
part of it.
everywhere.
Exactly. So that's part of it. Let's call a spade a spade. If an electricity system is damaged, it needs money to fix it. Money that's supposed to go into other things, right? Let's be clear about that. Also, part of the social problem is how many people are bypassing electricity system. How many people are,
and that's a major problem. To the bypass, I think it's a major problem. Yeah.
So that's a big challenge. Again, also, all I'm trying to say is that every part of the system has their own fault, one way or the other. There's also economic hardship in the country. Living wages are very low. I will say that live and direct. Purchasing power of Nigerians are low. Majority of Nigerians are low.
That's correct.
And how many people will carve out, I don't know, 20,000, 25,000, 30,000 naira out of their minimum wage to pay for electricity? They have mouths to feed, they have house rent to pay for, they have to fix that. Again, I'm not going into maybe the cost of electricity is high or low, but what I know is that compared to the purchasing power of Nigerians, I think it's so imbalanced. And that's a source of problem as well to the system.
Now, I want to bring up the question of metering. You had mentioned it earlier before. In your view, why are we still having issue with metering? Why is it so difficult to ensure that all Nigerians or every customer in Nigeria is able to get a meter? We assume that would have been solved when the banding system came with the band A, band B, band C, and all of these underlying problems will be solved. I know there's a presidential metering initiative. How far has that gone? I don't know if you have any updates on that, but the issue of metering and the issue of the banding system, it has not. Have we achieved any progress so far with them, in your view? The banding system, especially.
So for the banding system, I think the electricity system was able to rake in money to improve the financial status of the stakeholders within the system, because that has always been a challenge. One of the reasons why the banding system came to being was to reduce the subsidy, to reduce losses, so that make the electricity system of Nigeria a little bit more financial. There was to improve liquidity. I think that's the word that is being used, to improve liquidity. And I think that has achieved some. Personally, I think with some numbers that I've seen, I think that has achieved some of that goal. But did that reduce subsidy? I don't think so. It did not solve that problem. And that is why, right from the beginning of that, I proposed a system whereby, and I think I mentioned this earlier, whereby rate of electricity is based on consumption. So meaning the first 20, 30 kilowatt hour per month, and I know I'm throwing out numbers there anyhow, but first certain kilowatt hour per month is at a very low level, low cost, maybe, I don't know, 50 naira per kilowatt hour. If you go from 30 to 60, it increases a little bit. 60 to 150, now you get into this to the point, right? Now above 250, then you have to pay significantly higher, right? With that, people will cut their quota according to their size, right? I think that's how they say it, right? You use what you can afford.
Yes.
And I know when I proposed this, someone has asked me, oh, what is going to happen to the industrial consumers, like, or commercial consumers as well? Well, there's going to be a different rate. And I believe there's always been a different rate for industrial users in terms of electricity. That's the way it is globally. Industrial and commercial users have different rates, while residential and domestic users have different rates. So the rate I'm proposing is purely for domestic users. So that's a way I think we can get out of this banding system that seems to be not working the way it was intended, or just challenges that were overlooked during the banding system. Again, the idea was good, but I think as it is now, it's not working as
Because I mean,
expected.
I'm on band A myself, and I doubt I get up to 20 hours. And sometimes I question it because when I calculate the cost of what I pay every month, as a last month, I mean, I pay more than up to 100,000 naira in a month for power. That's a lot of money, and I don't get the 20 hours of supply.
And this was the question I asked when the banding thing came up. Like, okay, I get it. The promise is 20 hours. Is it guaranteed? No, it's not guaranteed. We all know that. But if I don't get that 20 hours, are you still expecting me to pay the same amount? I think that's where the issue is.
Yes,
right
that's
now.
where the issue is.
At least personally for me, that's the way I see the issue. If I don't get, I know I may not get, it's not guaranteed. I wish it is guaranteed, but I know it's not guaranteed. But if I don't get it, why should I still pay for a service
the amount
not
of money?
delivered? And that is one of the reasons why when people start talking about cost reflective tariff, we should also be looking at service reflective tariff.